Welcome to another DragonLance Saga Order of Aesthetics news episode. It is Misham Yurth Green the 21st. My name is Adam, and today I was sifting through the Iconochronos and run across some very exciting bits of news. Wizards of the Coast just posted a video announcement about Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen and Dragonlance Warriors of Krynn. Now, before I get into it, I'd like to take a moment and thank all of you members of this channel and invite others who may not be members to become so. Just visit the link in the description below. And you can always pick up Dragonlance gaming materials by using the affiliate link therein as well. Okay, so before we dive into it, shout out to Everett and the Phoenix of Liberty. Thanks for joining live in chat, and anyone else who joins after the fact. Let's have a conversation about this. It's lunch break, at least it is for me, and I wanted to get in on this. I wanted to talk about this. Now, I reposted the video that D&D Direct released. We're going to watch it now, and at the tail end, we're going to sort of dive in to the implications and the news that was, in fact, announced. So let's get into it. Now,
I often wonder
I don't know about all of you guys.
why we fight. With all the evil forces
But the
that plague this land, the odds feel.
the animation is okay. I like that they did an announcement trailer. That's pretty cool. The fact that they're not going out of their way to showcase any heroes of the lands or villains that we're familiar with is an interesting choice to make.
But even
At least none that I'm picking up on. Let me know if you see it.
we must still
Hey, Solid Crumbie,
fight
thanks for
on.
joining. Solid Crumbie.
Not for victory. Not for kings. Not even for glory. But for each other.
I want to pause it here. Oh, come on, show it still. Why isn't it allowing me to pause it? I wanted to stop here and just make a note. Why aren't they using the Dragonlance logo? What? I don't understand that. It exists. It's a thing. Like, I don't understand why they're not doing that. And also, I don't know why they're not giving us any familiarity here. The closest thing we have to this being Dragonlance was that shot of the dragon with a rider on his back. And even then, it was like right here. It was a little bit strange. Like that's, other than that, it doesn't really even feel like Dragonlance to me. And you guys let me know if you're, yeah, and I understand that, Phoenix Liberty. I doesn't mean I'm going to like it. It looks like garbage. But other than this shot right here, where you can see someone peeking over his shoulder, it doesn't really feel like Dragonlance. And so I'm starting to ask myself, well, what is it that would make it feel like Dragonlance? I'm not entirely sure I know the answer to that question. We're clearly seeing a war, which I really like. That, like, having spell casting up front in any of the Dragonlance battles was not something that happened normally. And so maybe that is also taking it away. I understand this is 5th edition, so, you know, whatever. John is calling it disaster already. I'm going to wait until we see a little bit more here, because this is this announcement isn't just that they are releasing a source book, which they're not. There is no source book, but rather that they're actually just releasing a war game and an adventure. And other than that, there's nothing specific to the Dragonlance campaign world, you know, like a source book. And I don't know if we need another one, because we have 1st edition, 2nd edition, 5th edition, and Saga edition and 3rd edition source books. So what else are they going to do other than copy and paste, right? But it is just a little bit strange to me that they're not really going, you know, full in on here's the Dragonlance campaign source book like they did for Ravenloft, for example. So the two products that they announced were Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen, which is an adventure book that tells a brand new story about the beginning stages of the War of the Lands. Now, this could be actually really interesting, because if you remember, Dragons of Autumn Twilight, which for all intents and purposes was the introduction to Dragonlance and the War of the Lance, was not the beginning of the war. By that time, the dragon armies had already taken over Sylvanesty and Hylo and most of southern Abanasinia already. So that was, there was a lot that was going on before we were ever introduced to it in the novels, and certainly when we think of the War of the Lance. Because I don't know about you guys, a little solipsistic there, but when I think of the War of the Lance, I think the Battle of the High Claris Tower. Like, that is, for me, the beginning when good actually is starting to fight back in full force. Because up until then, the dragon armies just swept across, enslaved, murdered, subjugated. They were doing all of their good evil deeds. I mean, that's what bad guys do, right? So I thought that was a little bit strange, that we're not retreading their ground. That's actually probably good, a little bit odd, but good, that maybe we're taking it to the very beginning stages of the actual war before they really knew, before anyone in Abanasinia or Lower Ansalon knew that the dragon armies were a real threat. We were introduced to them briefly in Brothers in Arms, where Ariakan was sending down troops, but he didn't want people to know about the dragon army yet. And that was in young Raistlin and Caramin's career, before they were, anything really special. But an adventure is an adventure, right? As long as it's set in Dragonlance and it feels epic in scope, that would be interesting. Now, here's the deal, though. If this is set in, as they state, in the beginning stages of the War of the Lance, Dragonlance is about epic battles, huge dynamics between good and evil, decisions that have to be made that are difficult, overcoming adversities and bigotries in order to work together against a greater evil. If it doesn't address those ideas, is it really Dragonlance? And I'm hoping, maybe foolish of me, that the designers behind this are taking that into consideration. But if the Unearthed Arcana is any indication about what they're going to do, I don't really want anything to do with it, because it's strange. They're completely changing what Dragonlance actually is through some of the races. And I understand what they're trying to do is unify this multiverse so that, everything's the same. But in the process of doing that, you're losing what's special about these settings. All right. So the second one that they're announcing, which I am kind of excited about, is Dragonlance Warriors of Krynn. Now, this is a war game experience, and it's an introduction. So think of Advanced Dungeons & Dragons came out with something called Battle System. Now, this was sort of a brainchild out of the early designers who wanted to introduce large-scale battles to Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, without breaking down individual soldier stats and stuff like that. So you talked about like large platoon and company-sized stats instead. And then you would have battles that way. We saw it with the original module, I think it was DL8, where it was the Battle of the High Claris Tower. We saw, I think it was DL11, where it was literally the War of the Lance as a sort of, like a risk game ostensibly, but it's just the entire continent of Ansalon, and someone plays Whitestone armies, someone plays the High Lord armies, and you sort of battle. So this existed before. This seems to be a sort of reimagining of the battle system in 5th edition, but the mechanics are probably going to be different, but the effect is the same, is trying to introduce a battle system game to the individual player game of 5th edition. So I'm all for that. I think that's very cool. I think it's mechanics aside, it may suck. I don't know. It may be amazing. I want to, kick the tires on that. That's very exciting. Here's what bothers me about all of this. It said like late. Hold on a second. I'm going to get it. Late 2022. So the adventure book and the battle game are coming late 2022. Why are you not capitalizing on the novels that are coming out in August just a few months away. Why would you not double down on something that it's been years since Dragonlance has had serious hype behind it? And right now it is in peak fury of hype. Why not like get these out? Why weren't you working on these when you accepted the plea deal for the WotC lawsuit in order to publish the new Dragonlance trilogy? It doesn't make any sense. It's really, really strange. Okay, so let me see what you guys have to say about this. All right, so we need a setting book, not an adventure book. Yes, absolutely. The thing is with the adventures is you can adjust any of the insane amount of adventures that exists for Dragonlance already that people have never even really looked at. There's the World of Krynn, Mists of Krynn, 2 adventure collections that were released in late 1st edition, early 2nd edition era, which have a ton of really great content. You have the Book of Layers, which has tons of little monster setup adventures that are just sort of like, you know, either you can insert them into an existing campaign or just do like a 1-off or 2-off adventure based off of those Book of Layer adventure or seeds, I guess you would call them adventure seeds. And then you have all the huge scope ones, the original Dragonlance Adventures. I don't know if we need another reprinting of those. But you also have the Age of Mortals adventures that were released, which were, in my group, hugely popular. The 3.5 edition adventures. It was like Key of Destiny in those, Spectre of Sorrow and Price of Courage or something like that, I think. Anyway, those are great. Why not redo those? Or, you know, just give us something more than I'm hoping is not going to be a stale adventure when we already know the outcome. You know, so you have to set it off from the main exciting bits of the War of the Lance if it's before the war actually starts. I mean, there's tons of flair that you could add in. If you're going to be adjusting, I mean, you know, in 2nd edition, TSR really changed Dragonlance with the introduction of Spelljammer. So it merged those 2 universes together. It actually added Drow in one of the adventures to Southern Ergoth. It added mind flayers and stuff with the release of I can't remember the Illithids, with the Time of the Dragon box set that expanded the Talada's continent, or actually introduced the Talada's continent. Little side note, I'm actually starting the trilogy again. I've already read it once, of the Talada's trilogy by Chris Pearson, and man, that opening chapter is just, it's gold. It's gold. You got to read that trilogy if you haven't yet. Anyway, there's so many different ways that you could go with providing Dragonlance fans and Dungeons and Dragons fans ways to break into Dragonlance. And ironically, a war game is not the one I would have expected. Like, I understand it's set in a war era, but really in the scope of Dragonlance, you have your 4 dragon wars, but other than that, there's no real wars, which is kind of weird when you think about it. You know, you have small town, like small localized skirmishes and stuff. Like the Dark Knights, they just sort of ran roughshod over everyone. There was no actual wars with, you know, you talk about War of Souls, and then you have a little bit of war there. But even then, it was just a goddess plowing over the Knights of Takhisis and, you know, all the good forces that she plowed over, like Sylvanesti. So even then, it's not really wargaming. It's just, when I think of Dragonlance, I think of epic adventure. I don't think of wargaming. You know, it's definitely not like Warhammer or something like that. And so I'm a little bit concerned that they may be trying to push Dragonlance in a direction that is not familiar with me. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is different. All right, what else do you guys have to say here? Yeah, that was one hell of a shield. That must have been that Fizzban's shield or spell, like artifact or something. Nothing. Everett says, thanks for joining live. Nothing sounds or says Dragonlance in that to you, except for maybe the lance. The Flying Citadel in the back is nice. I agree. Let's take another quick look at this. Because why not? It was fun. You know, just the fact that they put, this could be Forgotten Realms. This could be literally anywhere. I mean, there's nothing here that says Dragonlance except for the big bold letters. Say Dragonlance. And we have the flying citadel back there in the distance. It almost doesn't even look like a flying citadel, if you ask me. Like, I think there was another shot of it that was a little bit better over a dragon or something. Let me check. Oh, maybe not. Yeah. Was that the only flying citadel shot in the entire thing? You sons of... Yeah. All right. There it is, flying citadel. It's very... I don't know what that blue... Is that just like magic? The blue misty stuff? Not lightning or anything? That's just like, oh, well, let's just put in some blue smudges and, you know, it'll be magic. I guess. WotC really doesn't like Dragonlance. It certainly seems like they're not big fans of it. You know, and maybe that's why they didn't want to rush it out. Maybe that's why they're not giving a source book. And here's the deal. Okay, let's all be 100% honest right now. And this is just my opinion. At least we're getting something, right? Should we take the idea of, well, they could either ignore us or they could give us something. They clearly don't connect with our passion for it and our idea of it that has existed, you know, since TSR days. And so they're changing it, but it's still something, right? And in my like little black Dragonlance heart, I don't know that that's good enough, even though I'm excited something is coming out. You know what I mean? I'm like sort of torn about it. What are you going to do? All right, so here's Hickman and Weiss had a lot of requirements for the book. A lot of race stuff needed to be edited and fleshed out. All new characters. You're smelling a 5th age disaster. Well, it's all going to be in 5th edition, so I don't know. You know, I don't know how different it could be from anyone who is playing a 5th edition game now. And I think the point is that it's supposed to be seamless cutting into it. If you could give me like an article link or a video link where she's mentioning that, Hickman is mentioning that, I would love to read that too. So let's see, Dragonlance Nexus did a pretty good job in converting it. They did great. They're awesome. Dragonlance DL Nexus is awesome. So your impression was it was about the return of the true gods and humanity, the various races overcoming their arrogance. See, that's what I thought it was when I read the original trilogy, when I think of Dragonlance. But then I read all of the other novels I could get my little grubby hands on, and it turned into something much greater than just the War of the Lance, you know, just good overcoming evil. You know, it's especially when you're starting to think of the different eras of Dragonlance and the different novels that are set in those different eras, and you're getting perspectives from goblins or ogres or minotaurs or Irda, or, you know, it's very different. You're getting not just like middle-aged white male hero going through and annihilating all of the bad races. Instead, you're getting every single different race and their different perspectives in all of these different novels, even the monsters like dragons. And that's a refreshing way of approaching it, you know? They want it to flop, says Charlie. Don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. I don't want to hear that. They're in a hurry to grab the Spelljammer money. Yeah, I think I see that 100%. All right, so let's see. That sounds like a plan, John. You're calling Raceland, not Taz, no Flint. Shit, oh, can't choose. Wait, what? Let's set up a 2nd edition campaign with the old characters. DM it. I kind of want to do that, to be honest. I really kind of want to do that. All right, what else? Let's just have Soth kill everyone and everything in this new setting, send them to Hell Soth. You know, I just finished reading, again, the Scarlet Gospels, which is about Pinhead. I don't know how many of you read Clive Barker, but he's a horror writer. So it's about Pinhead sort of collecting up all of the magic around the world and killing all the human sorcerers to gain their magic, and then goes into hell and challenges Lucifer to be like the most, you know, powerful one. And he takes Harry D'Amour down with him, lures him down, more like it, in order to sort of be the witness of his rise to, you know, godhood, ostensibly. It reminded me a little bit of Dragonlance with Raceland, to be quite honest. But it's a great book. But yeah, the idea of Hellsoth sort of reminds me of the Scarlet Gospels. Let's see. I would love to see a a Lord Soth in this era, though, because, you know, Lord Soth was the villain. You know, Takesis, she would have been the main villain if she could come through full force into Krynn. Soth was there. He was kicking ass and taking names the whole time, and he didn't even want anything to do with Takesis. He was like, hey, do your war. I don't give, you know, I don't care. I'm just going to live my miserable Death Knight life until Kiriara shows up, and he's like, check you out. What's your name? I'll come with you. You're awesome. So because they're in such a, let's see. You're so far behind the lore. The last one you read was the War of Souls. Yeah, there is a bunch of stuff after that. Let's just have Soth kill everyone. We did that. Let's see. Hoping for a Feywild source book before the Witchlight book. There was no Feywild. I don't care at all about Feywild. And I don't want Kenner to be a Fey. Epic shit. I'll definitely be playing the new adventure just to show my friends what Dragonlance is. As long as you make it feel... And here's the thing. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, it sucks. You can still make it great. If you're the DM, if you're the players, play it like Dragonlance is supposed to be in your mind, in your experience, right? So you make it what you want it to be, rather than expect others to do so. This is life. Expect to be disappointed. That's just how it works. As soon as we're born, it's a long, slow trek to death. And so it's up to us in order to find joy and pleasure in the time that we have, the very, very short time that we have. So if we're going to enjoy it playing a role-playing game, and the only supplement in the edition of role-playing that we're playing is one that we're not happy with, make it so you're happy, you know? Customize it. So anyway, I want to watch this thing one more time because I want to find something about Dragonlance here. Maybe they're like, let's just throw some embers on the screen, and they'll eat it up.
With all the evil forces that plague this land, the odds feel insurmountable.
I didn't see like armies of elves fighting, you know? Even when it got down to the Whitestone Council and stuff, in the books, it was really the Knights of Slavia that were, you know, on the front lines.
But even in knowing all this...
And they must, you know, it's like NATO or something. I mean, they must have reserves of different, you know, like the dwarves and elves and stuff like that. I would imagine they would have. But you thought that was the Brightblade? Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Where's this Brightblade you speak of? I thought that was the Brightblade, maybe? Trying to scrub slowly to see it. I don't see a Brightblade, dude. I see blades. Unless you're talking about like the bad guys. You know they're the bad guys because they're in red. Like, what? I think the High Lords had customized armor. I don't think they had the money to customize armor for their entire army. Especially when they had like ogres and goblins and, you know what I mean? And draconians. They didn't customize all that. Having enough paint for that? It's not like they could go down to a Home Depot and pick up cans of paint or enamel in order to paint these damn pieces of armor. Ridiculous. All right, where are the good guys and women? All the good guys, women in this one. Well, let's see. Because there was like a little hero shot, right? Of them like standing in defiance of all the baddies. So we've got, I mean, who knows? Maybe the knight in the middle is trans. I don't know. It could be a male. Don't be all butthurt that I said that. Trying to do a little tongue in cheek here. I don't see a Brightblade. What are you guys talking about? That's probably a dude in the middle. I bet that's a dude. Nope. Look at the breastplate. That's definitely a girl. And that, it looks like a girl Kender to me, but I don't know. What I liked about the Kender, and that's definitely a girl on the far end. What I liked about Kender is that they appeared at first glance to be kids like this one, but you could see deep set lines in their faces and wrinkles. And that's what set them apart, saying, oh, that's not a kid, that's a Kender, because they clearly have aged. I don't see that here. I don't see any lines or anything. That's what I liked about the imagery of Tasselhoff, is that he if you looked at him, he looked old, you know? Well, this first one here on the side, you think that's an elf, not a Kender? That totally looks like a Kender to me. Hold on. Where'd you go? That looks like an elf. I know the ears, but it's the height that I'm looking at and the little bob in the back. The far right one is a wizard, and that looks like an elf. The closest one, I think, could be a Kender. I don't know. Yeah, that's what I think, Rick. Thanks for joining live, by the way. Anyway, it doesn't matter what they are. They're just, you know, they're stand-in avatars for your adventure player. One thing that here's a little timeline issue I may have with this. The novels spoke of back before, in the Age of Dreams, there was a female knight that was welcomed into the Knights of Salamnia, but it was never really expanded upon. And as far as the novels went through with the Chronicles, Laurana was the first female Knight of Salamnia. And, you know, in the comics, there's another female, Riva Silvercrown, Knight of Salamnia, but it's the same time, you know, right before Laurana. And if this is set at the very beginning, before the War of the Lance, like they're saying, well, there were no women Knights of Salamnia then. That didn't exist. I'm not against it. I think that's fine. You know, maybe that's why it's a sort of Joan of Arc close cropped haircut, which I love the idea of. I love Joan of Arc as a historical figure. And that film Messenger was just amazing. I loved it. Mila Jovovich is badass. So I don't know. Dragonlance 5e makes you excited, Danny. I am stoked you feel that way. Right there, that was the Brightblade. Why am I not seeing this doggone? You mean that sword right there? Because all I see is a chinked-edged sword. I'm not seeing a damn... And I definitely, clearly the Brightblade is with Sturm at this point, if this is at the beginning of the War of the Lance. You know, he's returning from northern Salamnia to Abanasinia and Solace at this time. Why don't I see? Oh, you mean right there. That could just be any sword. That doesn't look like it to me. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not seeing what you're seeing. So anyway, I'm not going to scrub it all day. Wasn't Palin's daughter? Yes, but that was after the Fifth Age, right? So that was way after Laurana. 40 years after Laurana was in Knight of Salamnia. You keep saying there, but there's a delay. So I'm not going to be able to see it. Maybe you can give me a timestamp. I'll look at that if it's not really not that important anyway. But yeah, so these are the two pieces that were announced today. This is the first confirmation we have of Dragonlance in any way in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, which I'm of two minds about it. You know, it's great that we're getting something, but it's not really Dragonlance. But it's the only Dragonlance we're going to get. So be happy about it. Shake your fist in the air. Maybe write a sternly worded letter. And see where that gets you. But it's Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen adventure book, and it's Dragonlance Warriors of Krynn war game. You will I'll be picking them up because I got to review them for you all, you know, because I have no life. I have this void inside of me that makes me create this ridiculous content. I'll be, live playing the board game for sure, the war game. I think that'll be a lot of fun to do. And we could just do like a compare and contrast against the old battle system war game from like DL11 and this new one. I think that'll be interesting. Yeah, adventure book, not a campaign setting. It's not the same thing at all. But, they pieced they're like dusting Dragonlance flair in with other books that have nothing to do overtly with Dragonlance. So we had a lot of it with Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, as much as we've seen so far. And there's tiny little bits in other books, I've been told. But that's it. That's the extent of it. So what are you going to do? Maybe at the very beginning of the adventure book, or maybe at the very end, they'll have a couple pages to sort of flesh out the information that was in the Unearthed Arcana supplement that was released, the test material. Once that's finalized, maybe that's where it's going to go. It would make sense, unless they're going to add it to some non-specific, non-Dragonlance specific book, which would be really weird if they did it that way. So who knows? There'll be something. Kind of interesting to know what the war game is going to be. Maybe a 4E board game. I think it is going to be more like the DL11 stuff, where, you know, the battle system stuff, rather than the 4th edition, like Castle Ravenloft board games. You know, I don't think it's going to be like that. Because it is a war game, you know, it's like amass your troops and stuff like that. I'm extrapolating with that because we don't really know anything, but that would make sense versus you play a single character going through a dungeon like those other 4th edition board games were. So anyway, I hope it's going to be great. I have my fingers crossed that someone over there at WotC is listening to the Dragonlance community and paying some attention. I'm not one to boycott or talk shit on or ban companies because they don't do what I want them to do. I'm not that privileged. I don't care that much, to be quite honest. I have a life beyond my fandom love. So if it doesn't work out, then I'll just ignore it. I already have stuff in Dragonlance that works perfectly. 1st edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons is 100% Dragonlance all day. I dig it. It works. 2nd edition expanded that into some wonderful ways. 5th Age Saga role-playing system changed it for a lot of people, but for me, it focused on storytelling, which was great. And we came back with mechanics-heavy 3rd edition Dragonlance, which was just as wonderful as 2nd edition, in my opinion. So it's not like we don't have fallbacks to great Dragonlance material if 5th edition isn't what we're looking for. Always keep that in mind. There's always a bright side. Maybe you can find it in your life. Anyway, you'll screen cap the shot. I'd appreciate that. info@dlsaga.com. Shoot me an email and I'll take a look at that. Anyway, thanks for joining me on my lunch break. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thank you, WotC, for at least giving us something before I curse you when I see what it actually is. Have a great day, everyone. Until next time, Slanjavar.